Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everybody joining us from around the world. My name is Isabella, and I'm part of the World Food Forum education team. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's masterclass. This year's masterclass series is centered around the FAO's Four Betters approach: better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. Today's session will focus on better environments, with a special emphasis on how young people can drive agri-food system transformation through bioeconomy. To give you a brief introduction, the World Food Forum's education program offers a wide range of initiatives, one of which is the Masterclass series, hosted under the Youth Skills Hub. The Youth Skills Hub is an online platform that empowers young people by equipping them with the skills and knowledge necessary to contribute to agri-food system transformation and enter the agri-food job market. The Youth Skills Hub is built on three pillars. First, the masterclasses like this one, which aims to enhance participants' knowledge of agri-food systems. Career opportunities, including internships, volunteer positions, and job listings to help young professionals apply their skills in real-world settings. Third, an online library with technical resources and interactive e-learning tools for professional development. You can find more information on all of these activities on the World Food Forum website. As for today, we're excited to dive into the topic of bioeconomy, and we are fortunate to have the FAO's Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment leading the session. Without further ado, I'm happy to hand it over to the fantastic bioeconomy team to kick off the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. My name is Pablo. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm also working with the bioeconomy team based in the FAO headquarters here in Rome. So let's get started, and I'll share my screen now. So today's session will be moderated by me, and I will have some colleagues from FAO Bioeconomy team, Marilik Nijmeijer, Associate Professional Officer for Sustainable Bioeconomy, and Isabel Albinelli, Bioeconomy Specialist. And we will also have our colleague from FAO office in Cabo Verde, Claudia Rodriguez, who will also explain one of the examples, practical examples of bioeconomy innovations that we are working on the ground. So on the next slide, I will hand it over to Marilik.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Hello, everyone. My name is Marilik Nijmeijer, and I work at the FAO Bioeconomy team in headquarters. So in today's session, we will give you a couple of concrete examples of what bioeconomy is to help you understand a little bit better what we mean when we talk about this concept. But before doing that, let's dive into what it means in theory. So what actually is bioeconomy? So maybe before we get started, may I ask you to do a thumbs up if you have heard of bioeconomy before? Just with the reaction. Okay, I see one person. Well, good, then I think you guys have come to the right place. We will tell you more about what it is in just a second. What we want to do is start with a little quiz to test your knowledge on the topic. So don't worry, it's just a quiz so we know a little bit where we stand with you today. Pablo, let's start the quiz. You see on the screen a QR code. So please scan the QR code with your phone, and then you will be redirected to Mentimeter, which many of you might know, where we'll do a little quiz about what bioeconomy actually is. So you can go with the QR code on your phone, or you can go to the website menti.com and you can type in the code. Let me also put the code quickly in the chat.
I think already 6 people logging in into the quiz.
Great. Okay, so maybe I think we can start the quiz, and then we can see how many of you managed to already enter.
I'm just adding colleagues, if you have any issue accessing this quiz, please type in the chat and we will assist you.
All right, Pablo, should we go to the first question? Here we go. Let's wait for a couple of more players to enter. Okay, I think we can get started with the first question. All right, so the first question is, which of these are not biological resources? So because bioeconomy is generally defined as an alternative to use biological resources in a smarter way. So which ones of these are not biological resources? All right, good job, everyone. This is going very well. So let's go to the next question. Okay, the next question is bioeconomy always sustainable? Aha, interesting. Okay, here we go. So indeed, the correct answer actually is that bioeconomy can also be unsustainable. But we'll tell you more about that when we go through the presentation. And this is also exactly the reason why FAO focuses on sustainable bioeconomy. All right, let's go to the next question. So which type of waste can be transformed into valuable resources in a sustainable bioeconomy? So is it plastic waste, organic waste like food scraps and agricultural residues, or radioactive waste? Everyone voted. Aha, okay, again, interesting. So indeed, bioeconomy is really about using our biomass, our biological resources like organic waste in smarter ways and turning that into valuable resources. And after this, you will have great examples of how we do that. Next question. Well done, everyone. Okay. So which of these is a bioeconomy innovation? And again, 3 options. Great. Well done, everyone. Feel like you're already learning about bioeconomy by doing the quiz, so that's really good to see. Okay, so I think that's the end of the quiz. Let's see. Oh, it's not the end of the quiz. One more question. Around how many countries and regions do you think now have bioeconomy strategies and policies? Oh. Okay, so most of you got it correct. Indeed, there is now 26 in total. So there's 3 regions and 23 countries with a strategy dedicated to developing their own bioeconomy. So we see that the number is slowly growing. It was around half a couple of years ago, so growing fast. So I think this was the quiz, and now I think we'll see who of you had most answers correctly. Whoever was Croc, congratulations. Croc did really well. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We hope that this was a quick way of teaching you a little bit about what bioeconomy is. So as you could see, bioeconomy is really using our sustainable resources in more efficient and effective ways. So that means waste that is organic, so not plastics or radioactive waste, but that everything that is organic, and we can transform that into new valuable products. So we have also an FAO definition on bioeconomy, which we quickly wanted to show you. So you have an idea also of the work of FAO on bioeconomy. So you see the definition on the screen, which was adopted by FAO, which is bioeconomy is the production, utilization, conservation, and regeneration of biological resources, including related knowledge, science, technology, and innovation, to provide sustainable solutions, including information, products, processes, and services within and across all economic sectors, and enable transformation to a sustainable economy. So in case that you feel that this definition is giving you more confusion than clarity, don't worry. I think a lot of us had that the first time that we saw this definition. But that's why we wanted to take you through it so we can unpack it a little bit together. So as most of you probably know, FAO does not only, maybe go back one slide, Pablo. Thank you. Yes. So FAO is not only an organization that works on practical issues related to food and agriculture, but it's also a political organization. So we have different member states that are represented at FAO, and they need to find agreement about the definitions that are used. And in the case of bioeconomy, that means that the definition needs to be broad enough to capture all the different perceptions and interpretations of bioeconomy that exists across countries and across regions. Because as you can imagine, different countries have different biological resources available to them, and therefore they develop their bioeconomy in different ways. So this is why what you can see is that the definition is quite broad and could actually mean a lot of things. And also a little bit vague, but this is sometimes done on purpose so that many countries can see themselves reflected in the definitions that we adopt. So over to the next slide to show you how bioeconomy can be interpreted in easier terms. So basically, when we talk about bioeconomy, we talk about using our biological resources in a smarter way to substitute non-renewable fossil-based resources to provide food, feed, shelter, clothing, medicine, and many other goods and services across all economic sectors. And biological resources that we use can include different things, including animals or fish, as well as plants and trees, algae, fungi, bacteria, and even insects, as you will see in a little bit. So maybe some more intuitive examples of what bioeconomy products are could be bio-based plastics or alternative bio-based textiles and biofertilizers. But we also talk about more efficient and sustainable bioprocesses that harness microorganisms, including fermentation processes, for example. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Bioeconomy at FAO. At FAO, bioeconomy is very central because we're increasingly looking at taking a systems approach to agriculture and food. So we talk about agri-food systems and not only about focusing solely on food security and nutrition or on increasing production. And with this systems approach, FAO now also looks into food products as well as non-food products. And this is really where bioeconomy comes into play because for bioeconomy, we use our biological resources that most often come from agri-food systems, but they're used to impact other economic sectors, including, for example, the fashion industry, as you will hear in a little bit. But also building, for example, is more and more done with bio-based materials. Okay, and so to give you a little bit more examples of the work from FAO, I will now hand over to my colleague Isabel.
Thank you very much, Marilik, and hi to everyone. Thank you for being here with us. I just wanted now to give you a bit of background on why FAO works on bioeconomy and what we practically do before digging a bit into the concrete example we will see in the next part of this masterclass. So Pablo, would you mind going to a bit before to the slide, a bit before? Amazing, thank you so much. So there are many premises on why FAO works on bioeconomy, but I always like to give you some figures because I think it puts us in the broader picture of really the why. So if you think that in 2020, 30% of the population has suffered any form of malnutrition, but at the same time, 13% of the world's agricultural production is lost every year. And 70% of the food we have available is wasted. So how are we going to answer, to cope with the fact that by 2050, the global demand for food will grow by 60%? And how to answer to this without depleting our natural resources, our ecosystem, our world? So with these premises in mind, is in 2021 that FAO has elevated bioeconomy as one of the corporate priority of the organization in its strategic framework. So it's now a priority, it's a program itself, and we work especially on two main levels, two main components on bioeconomy. First is more the policy level, so we really work with the government, with ministries, especially Ministry of Agriculture, Environment in some instances, to support them in developing their national bioeconomies or also regional bioeconomies. But we also work more on the ground to implement some bioeconomy innovations, some bioeconomy approaches that can provide not just environmental benefits, but also social economic benefits with a specific focus on rural communities. And let me dig you a bit just in these two components we work on. In the next slide, we work more on policy, as I mentioned. So we have been working with 3 countries in the past few years, Malaysia, Namibia, and Uruguay, in developing their own bioeconomies through a policy process. And then we also develop some tools to enhance our support to countries, which include a toolbox, a bioeconomy toolbox, to a stepwise approach that country can follow to develop their own bioeconomies. Also local bioeconomies. We don't talk just about national or regional bioeconomies, but also local bioeconomies in rural area, in cities, and so on. We have also a dashboard in which we track global progresses on bioeconomy. And as Marilik and you saw before in the quiz, we have now 23 countries and 3 regions with a bioeconomy strategy. And then in the next slide, we focus a bit more on also the theme of this masterclass of today, the bio-innovations that we are implementing on the ground. For the sake of time, I will go really quickly through this because we are seeing them anyway in the second part of our masterclass. But for instance, just to give you a flavor, what in Pakistan, we have a project in which we turn the waste of the banana, especially the stems of the banana that usually are thrown on the ground in banana cultivation and burnt because there is no efficient valorization method, which cause a lot of not just GHG emissions, but also unintended POPs that are released into the air. We take those waste of stems and we convert them into alternative bio-based textile to cotton. We have also an example in Côte d'Ivoire that I will talk more about later. And now I will suggest we go directly into the deep of this conversation and to the second part. And for this, I hand over to my moderator, Pablo, please.
Thank you, Isabel. So on the second part, we will see two examples or practical examples of bioeconomy innovations in the ground. And for this, we will have our first speaker, Claudia Rodriguez. Thank you, Claudia, for joining us from FAO country office in Cabo Verde. And Claudia is managing the projects of bioeconomy in fisheries in transforming fish waste into fashion. So Claudia, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, and hi, everybody. May I share my presentation, Samuel? Okay, thank you. It's already there. Okay, guys, I'm Claudia Rodrigues. I'm from Cabo Verde. Can we move to the first slide? Yes, thank you. So Cabo Verde is a small island state in the west coast of Africa. We are 10 islands and 9 are inhabited. I think it's important to talk about the context of Cabo Verde so you understand why we are working on the fish waste. 99% of our economic exclusive territory is sea. We are surrounded by sea. But on the other side, we have a high vulnerability to climate change. In particular, we face a lot of drought. We are 16 degrees up to the equator. So we have a tropical dry climate. It never rains here. Most of the time it's sunny, it's very nice, but at the same time it's not good because we don't have a very sustainable agriculture and we don't have access to water. We also face a lot of hurricanes. The big hurricanes that normally goes to USA started here. So sometimes we face these challenges as well. Okay, we also face an historical vulnerability to food insecurity. In the past, the population of Cape Verde had really suffered, like in the 19th centuries and the 18th centuries, half of the population died due to the hunger. So this is a big issue for us. 80% of what we eat, we import. But because we are surrounded by sea, fish is a very, very important protein, is the second main protein that we eat in Cabo Verde. We have a strong democracy. We have good governance in Cabo Verde. It's the most democratic country in our region. And also we are very fortunate to have a high level of literacy among our population and a strong human rights commitment with the government. So I think we have the negatives and the positives that can give a nice context for what we started with the bioeconomy team in headquarters. So the bioeconomy team had reached Cabo Verde and requested us to work on a project together with the gender and fishery team as well to apply for the Elevate 2004 call. And the proposal was to work on fish waste to fashion and also and doing that by empowering women in Cabo Verde, transforming fish skin into leather. Our proposal was selected among 150 applications, and after the workshop in Rome in April, we were selected and we were awarded as one of the 8 best proposals. And we were awarded with $100,000. So we are now implementing it until March 2025. It's very short time, but we believe that we're gonna make it. What was the rationale behind this idea? So we identified 3 main problems. First of all, I'm a gender expert. I didn't talk about it in the beginning, but that's my specialty, social and gender. And we acknowledge that in Cabo Verde, women are economically in disadvantage, and also in particular in the fishery sector. How did we come to this conclusion? Cabo Verde has a gender strategy in the fishery sector. So we had all the data, we did research on that. We understood that women in the fishery sector have more disadvantages in Cabo Verde. We know that globally is the same situation, but here in particularly. The second issue that we faced is that there are some units that process fish to sell fillets or burgers that didn't have how to manage their waste, the fish skin waste, etc. So this was a challenge also for the private sector that works on fish transformation. The third problem that we face is that the Cape Verdean artisans, currently they are importing unsustainable leather. They are importing synthetic leather, but also natural leather, bovine leather, which is, as you know, very damaging to the environment and not sustainable. We want to, at the end of the day with this project, we want to reach the unsustainable fashion industry and to promote a solution for them, not only for Cabo Verde, but Cabo Verde can be an example and export it outside and show that we can do better. So, solution. First of all, it's a social innovation because we want to promote women economic empowerment. So we selected youth and women as our main target. So it's young women that are the main beneficiary of this project. We also want to put more value on the waste, in particular the fish skin from the processors. And we want to replace the unsustainable leather with bio-based fish leather. What are our project's output? So basically our project provides capacity building, and in capacity building we are targeting the women from a small community named Achada Grande Trás from the Santiago Island. We want to provide them with financial education, management, business management, all the soft skills, but the main training that they are going to receive is how to produce the fish leather. We have a contract with a national agency that promotes vocational training that is going to support and our main partner on the training. Access to resource, the project will ensure that the women will have access to finance, technology, equipment, and infrastructure necessary to start up their business. Next, Samuel. The women economic empowerment component, it's because we're going to support them to create their own business, their cooperative, their company. And their company, we are envisaging the support of the Ministry of Culture and Creative Industry, because it will be a high-end product at the end of the day, because and we want to promote it in a big market. We want to promote it not only for internal market, but we want to bring it to the fashion world. In Cabo Verde, we have a very known she actually at the diaspora. Her name is Angela Brito. She's a fashion designer. She resides in Brazil. We want to take advantage of her. She's well known, and she also normally she do fashion shows in the São Paulo Fashion Week, and we want to engage her to promote this fish skin. But also we want to involve the artisans in Cabo Verde. So another component of the project is to guarantee that the artisans, the local artisans, produce purses, shoes, and put it on in the tourist market and in the diaspora markets. Next. So the innovation, as I mentioned before, we have a social innovation. We also have valorization of the waste, and we are using the bio-based and biodegradable textile. Next. This is what we want to get. So this is an idea of how it can be done. We are not yet there yet, but this is the end goal, to have this type of leather and to produce those type of products. So where we are now. Currently, we already did assessment studies, skin availability studies. We are undergoing with economic viability study. We also already target the community, as you can see in the pictures. We already select 15 women from Machado Grande Frente fishery community. Next. They started already the training. The training program has 210 hours and 5 modules. The first training is how to treat the fish and to collect the skin. They are already on that training. We have established a contract with the government agency for vocational training also to continue the training. And we identify a Brazilian trainer on fish skin tannering that will arrive in Cabo Verde in November. To continue with this program. The tannery unit. This is the space. This first picture is the space where we're going to have the tannery. It's inside a fish company that transforms fish to fillets and hamburgers. It's a women-owned company, and since day one, Fresco de Gusti was our major partner, our main partner. She offers the space for the units to function, so the tannery will be happening in that space. And we currently had procured all the equipments to make it possible. So basically, this is our team. To finalize my last slide, it's just to say that we are a small but a big team at the same time. So we have different talents. We have fishery expert, microfinance, entrepreneurship expert, social and gender expert, communication and marketing expert, bioeconomy specialist, and we are supervised by our head of the program in Cabo Verde, Katia Neves. This is the final slide, and thank you for having me. I'm open for question, and I will ask Marlique to support as well because she's part of the team. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Claudia, for the very insightful presentations. And it's really good that we see how FAO conducting some projects on bioeconomy on the ground and try to maximize what is the main value added and on the main commodity of that particular region and particular country. So we always try to suit our bioeconomy projects on the ground with the commodity that's already existing there. And we try to look into the value chain. How can we valorize, for example, the waste of here in Cabo Verde is the fish skin of the fish products. So we will, I know that maybe some of you already have some questions for Claudia, but we will put the question and answer at the end. And now I will hand it over back to Isabel to explain about our second project that we are currently still doing in Côte d'Ivoire. Isabel, over to you.
Thank you, Pablo. And thank you very much, Claudia. That was super inspiring. For this second example of today, we are going from Capo Verde, let's say, which Claudia, Marilique, and the team, they are valorizing the residues and the waste of, let's say, aquatic resources. And here we valorize the waste of the city. So this is called, the project is Biodaf, and it takes place indeed in Abidjan, in Côte d'Ivoire, West Africa. And the project, Pablo, can you move to the second slide? Yes. So the project tackle 3 main issues of this big city. So you must imagine, for who is not familiar with this metropolis, Abidjan is growing super fast. It's an incredibly active city. And the district of Abidjan itself reached out to the country office in Côte d'Ivoire, FAO country office, to tackle 3 main issues on the ground. So the huge quantity of organic waste that each day is produced in the city, we are talking about around 2,500 tons of organic waste per day. There is no efficient collection of this waste, and there is no valorization of this waste. So it's often left on the ground. The second issue is the lack of locally available agricultural inputs, especially available fertilizer, which are imported are quite costly. And of course, we know that sometimes are not used in a sustainable way. And then the latest issue is, of course, an issue for each fast-growing city is the need for creating new job opportunities. So together with the country office in Côte d'Ivoire, which is at the forefront of this initiative, and together with the FAO Green City Initiative, which is another flagship initiative of FAO, we unified our efforts and we came up with a really peculiar solution that actually tackles the all these issues. So in the next slide, you will see what is this solution. The solution is called the black soldier fly, the larvae actually of the black soldier fly. I don't know how many of you are familiar with them. It's now quite mainstream. It's a fly. It's really a fly, but it's just bigger than a normal fly. It is totally harmless, but it has a sort of superpower. So this fly, the larvae of this fly, are able to eat huge quantities of organic waste in a really short time period. So what we do, what is our model? We harness the power of this insect. We first collect all the organic waste that is left on the ground or discarded in local open air market in Abidjan. We collect all of them every day. We bring them to our conversion unit where we smash this organic waste and we feed the black soldier fly larvae, which are really small at the beginning, with this waste. The larvae, in just 14 days, they grow 10,000 more their initial size. And we have the larvae at the grown size, which are then are dried and used for animal feed, especially for poultry feed, but is also possible for aquaculture. And the only byproduct, the only residue of this process is a really powerful organic fertilizer with biostimulants properties. So then these two agricultural inputs that are produced are then sold at cheaper price to urban and peri-urban farmers, which produce then the food that is back in the local markets again, and the cycle begins again. So it's a really circular process without any residue, without any waste. And to do this, we have built a conversion unit, which is actually a farm. We have built a 1,000 cover square meter farm in the nursery of Abobo in the city center of Abidjan. And there we have a conversion unit. So every day we bring there the waste, we feed the larvae with the waste, we dry the larvae after 14 days, and then we produce the fertilizer. And the impacts are actually quite huge. So the farm is not running at full % of its capacity, but we'll reach it really soon. And at 50% of its capacity, every day we bring there around 1 ton of organic waste. And every day we produce 120 kilos of dried larvae and 200 kilos of fertilizer each day. But the farm acts also as a farm field school. So we don't just employ people there directly in the farm for the production process, and we employ 8 people currently, but we also train more people to do their own unit of black soldier fly, because this is a quite big unit. It's also possible to have small units at the farm level. So every farmer can produce its own agricultural inputs. And I think this is really the interesting part. You can have really small units. And this solution is really cost effective. It has a low initial capital, which is required, a low know-how, and can be replicated in different contexts, also in different regions, and a different scale, small scale or bigger scale. And looking ahead, what we would really like to do is, for now, we are working with farmers, urban and peri-urban farmers, which use the larvae for poultry feed. But we would like also to expand this value chain to enter also the fish value chain, so to provide the larvae in powder, because it's better for aquaculture production. We are planning to replicate this very same model in other cities and in other countries. And we are applying to small grants program to be able to scale up, because there are many small grant programs that can support this. And we are just tapping into one, which is a UN grant that will allow us also to replicate the model in the district itself of Abidjan. And with that, I think we are done, and just I wanted to say that this is also on behalf of my colleague from FAO Côte d'Ivoire, which are really at the forefront of this project on the ground, and which is Conambrew. You can find his address there if you're interested. And now I would hand over to Pablo again, so we can open the Q&A session, which I think is the most interesting part maybe of the discussion.
Thank you, Isabel, and thank you again for providing completely different examples on two different settings of the project. So the first one from Claudia, we see a bioeconomy project that can be applicable to a more small-scale fisheries community in Cabo Verde with a more context of archipelago, of a few sets of islands. And then here we can see an example of bioeconomy projects that can be replicated in other urban settings, in other regions that facing similar problem on food waste. So I'm now opening the question and answer session. Any of you here in the attendance, if just raise your hand if you want to give questions either to Isabel, to Claudia, or to Marilik, if you're also more interested in the whole policy work of FAO on bioeconomy. Please go ahead, and I will also check on the chat. Okay, Rene, I see your hand. Let me see. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. The presenters, the projects are very amazing projects, but I wish to inquire, is this for the project in Côte d'Ivoire, is it very profitable? That's my first concern. I also want to know if it has been replicated to small farmers so that we can relate with to have some success stories, and so that we can relate with the challenges that they face in reality. Over.
Thank you, Rene. And I guess Isabel, this question for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rene. That's really important point. Actually, we are conducting now a study on the cost effectiveness of our farm. But I want to mention also that our farm was built thanks to the technical support, especially of a young-led startup, which is called Bioeconomy. They are active in Côte d'Ivoire, and they have all the know-how. So they have already conducted a few studies on what is the most effective, cost-effective model for black soldier fly rearing. And the return on investment, I don't have the data now, but I would be delighted to share with you afterward, are really high because you don't have really a lot of cost. The costs are fixed cost for the farm itself, which depends on the size of the farm, of course. And the input you need are the waste, which is free. What we pay actually is the collectors for collecting the waste from local markets. So we are also employing people to do so. And of course, the electricity for the machines and so on. I also want to flag that it's not mandatory to have machine, especially the dryer or the smasher of the organic waste. Is also possible to do it by hand. And some farmers and some other people that I know also in Asia are doing that by hand. They are drying under the sun and so on. So it's really profitable, it seems. The real profitability comes especially when you don't have a really strict regulation. Because, for instance, replicating the very same project in Europe would be much more expensive because you need to comply with a lot of safety regulations, especially when it comes to feed safety. So regulation play also a huge role in this. And successful story for farmers, I would be delighted also to share with you once the farmers have been trained in the farm field school, if they have successfully managed to implement their own unit. But I know of a colleague, which is also a farmer, that works in the regional office for Africa, which has done his own units in his farm of black soldier fly, and is successful. So I would be also delighted to link you with them.
And maybe to just add a bit of what Isabel already explaining, we also noticed that there are some youth-led startups, youth-led projects in Southeast Asia. I've seen one in Indonesia, in a smaller city, not even a big city like Jakarta, and they're doing the exact same projects of valorizing, transforming food waste in their own city, using the black soldier fly, and use that the dried larva into animal poultry chicken feed. So this is one of the examples of a project that actually could be easily replicated, and the emphasis is it doesn't really require a high technology in the very beginning to start, and everyone with a not with a smaller starting capital, with a small seed fundings, can easily start this kind of project. So I see in the chat, in the question and answer box, there is one quick question from Princeton. I think it's also for Isabel. For the black soldier fly, that they really also do the job of fermentation process for the food waste. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thanks, Princeton. So they don't really ferment. What they do is just they eat and they break down the organic waste. The process itself is called bioconversion. So they eat organic waste, they break it down, and they transform it into proteins themselves. And what is left, so you must imagine that in our farm, there was a picture before. We have these, on the ground, we have some pools. They seem like pools in which we put the organic waste that is meshed and mixed with a bit of water for the humidity. And on this organic waste, we put the eggs at the beginning of the black soldier fly. The eggs then, you see, yes, on the right side at the bottom, these are these pools. So there we put organic waste, the eggs turn into larvae, and the larvae start eating these organic waste, and they break down into proteins in their body themselves. And the only byproduct of this, so when we empty these pools, we separate the larvae, the big larvae, from what is left. And what is left is a bit of organic waste that was not eaten, and the frass, the excrements of the larvae, which is this organic fertilizer, and can be used alone or can be mixed with other type of fertilizer. Or also we have experiments with vermicompost, mixing both of them. So hope it answered.
Thank you, Isa. And there is this one question from Amira Tuazi, and I think this is for you, but also for Claudia. And the question is more about how to identify the root problems of both two projects, the process to identify the root problems, and also she's asking whether the manufacturing and the implementation process are eco-friendly, and how we actually conducted the use of energy assessments in conducting these two projects. So maybe I will go with either Isa or Claudia, whoever want to answer first. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. For the problems, as I mentioned in the beginning, one of the bases of the root problem that we identified was in the gender strategy that we developed a few years before, where we identified there was a gender inequality, and women in the fish industry had less opportunity. So we wanted to improve the fishmongers' lives and the women in the coast-free fishery communities, their lives. This was one of the problems that we identified. Regarding the fish processors, before we started to develop the project, we reached out to the canneries, to the industry, to understand what they did with the waste. And some of them already had a solution. For instance, we have canneries that transform the fish skin into animal feed. So the problem was solved for them, but there are others, in particular the fresh degustin that we identified that didn't have where to put the waste. She would only, they would treat it a little bit and put it in the garbage. So basically, when we understood that there's value that we can give to the waste, we reached them and they were very open and happy to be part of the project. The artisans, we implemented a small questionnaire to the group of artisans in Cabo Verde. So we identified that they were importing leather from abroad. In Cabo Verde, we don't produce leather. So this is going to be very important because it can be a very valuable product, local made. Regarding the issue of the energy, the factory that we chose to work with, the Fresh Agustin, it's an eco-friendly factory. The energy they use is solar energy. So they already have solar panels and they have all the conditions so we can start this project and we are not going to use the energy from fossil. So it's renewable energy. Thank you.
And maybe Isa, if you have some examples about the assessment of the problems and also the energy assessment of the projects in Côte d'Ivoire. Over to you.
Yeah. So for the root problems, first, I mean, we first had some root problems in Côte d'Ivoire, and for identifying those, the country office in Côte d'Ivoire was essential because they keep a really good relation with the district itself, Abidjan. So they try to support each other a lot, and that's how we got to know that there were these real main issues, and we could find a solution. And but also we did great job, I think, at the beginning of the project itself in trying to identify what barriers we could have faced during the project implementation. And for that, we had the support of colleagues here in FAO that they work on innovation, and they put us under the spot, trying to think what are the barriers. And for instance, one huge barriers we thought we would have was consumer acceptance. Because of course, for farmers, it's not easy to use products that are coming at the very beginning from waste. So we thought at the beginning we would have faced like a lot of issues in convincing farmers that these are more sustainable products, that are more efficient, that of course the price was a good incentive because these products are cheaper than conventional products, but still, but at the end, that was not a huge issue. And when the first farmers started to buy them, then the word spread, and we managed to overcome that challenge and that barrier. For the energy, we are not using solar panel for now because this would be in a second step of our project because was not unfortunately couldn't fit in the initial budget. But this is something to have solar panels that we are thinking to have in the second phase, in which we are hopefully receiving a second small grant, and we will be able to convert our energy source.
Thank you, Isa. And actually, we have another questions. First, the question from Tahani. I think my colleague Marilik already answering in the chat, and we can share you some resources that might already identify some similar projects created by youth-led startups in Tunisia, but also maybe on the region in North Africa. We will share you the resources. And actually, there are two questions going back to Claudia from Rene and from Bashir in the question and answer box. It's more questions of first is the more seed fundings from capitals for startups, and also the second question from Bashir is about how sustainable is the fish ladder productions and how it impacts the overall supply chain and the market of the the price in the fish market and the trade-off kind of between using this for food and also for fashion industry. And maybe this is more of a question of the trade-off in the future scalability. Go ahead, Claudia.
Yes, regarding seed funds, we are envisaging to partner with a government agency that supports startups. We envisage that the cooperative that we're going to support to be created, they will have access to more funds because obviously the project, it's only a prototype. We're just helping them to start, but they will need a little bit more capital in the beginning, and we are willing to partner with this government agency that is willing also to support with the seed fund. But also we are reaching out to the microfinance institutions that can also support the cooperative. Obviously, they will design a business plan. They will have all the training on how to manage the cooperative and the business, and they will be able to reach to this type of financing as well. Regarding the sustainability and the trade-offs, if for now we don't see it as a problem that okay, people will start having the price of the fish to get higher because it's going to be a very small project in the beginning. Let's see how it's going to be scaled up in the future. For now, it's going to only provide the products will be especially for artisans, local artisans, and a niche market for the fashion design as well. But currently in Cabo Verde, as you mentioned, we do eat fish skin. So we are not going to target the fish that we eat the skin. We are choosing 3 species that normally people don't eat the fish skin. And the factory where we are going to work, Fresco de Gustin, they already identified the species that don't have any value. The skin normally is a waste, nobody eats it. So those are the type of fish that we're going to target. We're not going to do all the type of fish. Thank you.
There is also a second question from Bashir. I think it's still related to the project in Cabo Verde about the associated technologies. Is it open access for anyone to explore, or they are usually protected by some intellectual property laws? And I think this question also could relate to other project in Abidjan about this valorization of waste using black soldier fly. I think many of the young entrepreneurs out there is usually start to aware of there is this area on intellectual property that they want to see if this is something that they can do and replicate it easily without additional costs or not. Go ahead, please.
Marilik, can you support on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm working together with Claudia on the project. And indeed, so what we're doing with the fish leather is actually it's actually using techniques that have been used for years, also by local communities in Brazil, but also actually in the north of Europe, so more Iceland, Norway, where really back in the days they used to work with fish leather for shoes and coats because that was what they had available. And while it may not sound as such, the process that we're using is not very highly technology intensive. So we do have a machine to tan the fish skins because we're doing it on a slightly bigger scale, but this is actually a process that you could even replicate at home. So no, there is no intellectual property law involved here. Also, that's really the focus of what we want to do. We want to make sure that we are implementing projects that can be replicated, that with technologies that can be used by the communities that we are supporting with these projects. And maybe what's also interesting to mention is that to create fish leather from fish skin, there's no need to add any chemicals. So it's a completely natural process, avoiding the use of any chemicals. This is also really important for the values of a sustainable bioeconomy. And this is why it also offers a sustainable alternative to bovine leather, because to create leather from cows, it actually uses a lot of chemicals. And then what we're seeing is that currently in Cabo Verde, they have to import this leather, whereas the fish leather could be produced locally. And of course, like Claudia said, only from fish skins that are wasted. So for FAO, when we implement the bioeconomy, the most important, of course, first is to ensure food security. So we would never value our products higher than products that could be eaten. So that's always important to keep in mind when we talk about sustainable bioeconomy. We really do look at using products that are wasted rather than products that could serve as food. So we're implementing circular approaches here.
Thank you, Marilik, and thank you again, Isabel and Claudia, for the very insightful presentations. I hope many of the youth audience here, they can go after this masterclass with more knowledge on bioeconomy, not only on the policy level, but also on the practical implementations on the ground. And because we are already approaching 3 p.m. here, so I will hand it over to Isabella from the World Food Forum, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Pablo. And thank you again to the bioeconomy team for such a wonderful and insightful session, filled with lots of inspiring examples. And I'm sure that the audience would find this session really helpful. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind everyone about the upcoming World Food Forum Flagship Week happening in just 1 week. The virtual registration is still open, but the link will close very soon, so make sure to sign up as soon as possible. And the flagship event will feature a lot of exciting discussions, dialogues, and activities, many of which will focus on topics related to FAO's areas of work. In particular, don't miss the upcoming masterclass on Better Life on the topic of the right to food, which will take place during the flagship event. So once again, thank you all for joining us today, and thank you again to the bioeconomy team. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and everyone for attending this session.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.